am going to actually want to take a little bit of credit, or some of it, for Aaron and I think. You always had great small hall shows. You know, I've been to York Hall for years. Spit and Sawdust, some southern area fights I've watched over the years are as good as British, European, and even world title scraps to watch. What I always felt at somewhere like York Hall, so there are tons of promoters that did it, so no names mentioned. I'll blame Mo. Mo won't mind me saying it, but never invested money in production. Yeah, you don't get the screens, you don't get the sparklers, you don't get the ring walks like they are. You know, some fights in the past before COVID, you'd be lucky if you got music for a ring walk. So it feels more like, you know, I've got a lot of friends and family that come along to some of the shows. They're not boxing fans. They might be a bit now because of me, but they come for me to support me and see how I'm doing, and they're proud. But actually, when they sit there and go, "This is brilliant, John," you know, because you've got music, it feels more like an event. So you've been there, you've just commented on it. I think they're not trying to sell tickets again, but anyone who hasn't been to our shows, you know, Johnny Clark's shows, fantastic on production. Nielsen puts production on now. Get down to them, because, and again, like some of my friends, they bring their partners or their wives, and I don't mean to be sexist, but in some cases I'm like, the missus ain't gonna like that, she don't like boxing, and they love it as much. One of my good mates is his missus that says, when are we going to the show again next, because they really enjoyed it. But I do think Small Hall is in the best place it's in, yes, probably because it's very competitive with those names we've talked about, and the investment is being put in probably at a loss to the promoters. So it was before I was in it, but I've seen the blueprint and the book of accounts, if you like, for these promoters. They probably did make some money on some of these shows where you'd have 15 fights on, 18 fights on, started at 2 in the afternoon, didn't spend a penny on production. But now it's sort of like we just break even on the shows. And as long as we can do that, that's what we're here to do. And if it gets us noticed or talked about and we get where we want to be, then great.
You guys are on Fight Zone now. Do you feel like that's helping the exposure? Because I think another thing for me about Small Hall is, I believe, I've like a BBC or an ITV should be picking it up and like giving the Small Hall a good, like, these fighters a bit of exposure. And I think Fight Zone has stepped in. Do you think it helps with the exposure?
Yeah, I lost you a little bit there, John, because the phone rang, but I got the question. Yes, we are with Fight Zone now, and I'm proud of that. And I'd go as far as saying Dennis Hobson is a friend of mine now. I knew who he was before we were in the sport. Anybody who follows the sport will know of Dennis, a very wealthy man from hard work and graft, and done well for his family and himself. Very ambitious himself, and he's got Fight Zone. It's a connection, just like many others that we've made and built on. And Dennis sees the value in TM14 and the shows we do. So he's a very wealthy man, but he's very shrewd. He probably won't mind me saying that. So he's not going to give stuff away for free, but he will help us in putting that production and out of his own pocket. But because he sees value in it, it's not because he's got money. He's not going to pick a random stranger like me and go, "Oh, I'll pay X amount of money," which isn't a couple of quid to pay for that show, as you can imagine. He supports that to get him the content on the platform. So the first show we did, we got interviewed before it on Fight Zone, and when it went live, the first thing I was like, it's almost like a match made in heaven if it works, because he's got the platform and we've got the content. My job's not to mess it up, but I'm doing all right, because I think I went over there at Christmas time for a night, met his family. He's got a hotel in Jersey. That's where he resides with his family. Went over there. That's after he's done a couple of shows. So sort of like laid out some plans for the new year. And I know he's got a lot of stuff himself he's looking at this year. He even starts seeing if we want to get involved in that are a lot more ambitious than what we're doing. But yes, it definitely helps by having Fight Zone, because it showcases the fighters again on a TV, if you want to word it like that, because people can't always get to the fight.